because we were in video production, best motoring and hot version, we knew that these cars were very popular overseas as well. And then we were thinking that, but some of the cars that made it out overseas were really not in good shape. So that's why we came up with a restoration idea. And yeah, that's how the ball started rolling. The most difficult part about starting a resto mod company is that the word resto mod wasn't known in Japan. So any company that we approached really didn't understand what we were trying to achieve. We focus more on response, which is also a concept with mines. Response rather than power. So 650 is a lot of power, I think. But still, we more or less concentrate on balance, response. So it's about acceleration more than top speed. Hi, my name is Masa Kuji from Built by Legends. This is Cars and Culture with Jason Stein.
I think Auto Week magazine may have summed it up the best. This company can put the Nissan Skyline on steroids. Steroids. We are here to talk about putting vehicles on steroids. We're here to talk about the enormous popularity of the Japanese market and having these vehicles now in the country. Frankly, because of a rule that's now 25 years old. But let me begin by saying hello to you, Masa. Welcome to the program.
Hello, Jason. Thanks for having me.
You just got back from SEMA recently in Las Vegas, where proudly on display, you had a very, very popular Nissan vehicle. Tell me about your experience in Las Vegas. How did that go?
It was great. We weren't sure where our cars were going to be presented. We had two cars there, a white R34 GTR and a Bayside blue R34 GTR, and we weren't sure really where the cars will be finally exhibited. But when we went, the Bayside blue was at a premier spot, and then also the white R34 was with ARMO, which is a committee within SEMA, I think, for restoration markets.
Mm-hmm.
So it was great.
Was that your first time being at the SEMA show?
No, actually, I've been there several times. So it wasn't our first time. It was our first time.
First time with a car.
Presenting the R34 GTR there.
Yeah.
I believe 2 years ago, our R32 GTR was present at SEMA.
That's a crazy place, isn't it?
It is. It's I mean, I've been going there from several years back, but it's a crazy place. Big, always big, with a lot of crowd.
A lot of crowds, a lot of interest, a lot of passion, a lot of car culture. I mean, we've talked to the head of
all
SEMA.
types.
Of all types, everything, right? Everything. Do you feel, well, let me ask you, what was the reaction to having the vehicles there?
It was great. People, noticed it right away, or they were looking for the cars.
How could you not? How could you not notice it?
Some of the people were like looking for our cars, and we were really happy, and they were happy to see it. And I think it was well received.
Yeah. A show like that, you can get lost, but not with a vehicle that you had on display there. How many orders did you take while you were there?
We had a few inquiries that's become an order. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you could just set up an order bank there and just take orders, honestly, with what you showed.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we do try to customize each vehicle. Each vehicle is really unique. So our production capacity is not a lot, let's say.
What is it?
I would say about 10 cars
Mm.
per
So
year.
you got to get in early.
But one car takes, let's say, for a BBL full resto mod, one car will take about 12 to 18 months. That's a year to a
Wow.
year.
Yeah. So
But that,
how?
that that's because we really give attention to each car.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. I mean, these things are not. This is not a production line in Detroit somewhere. I mean, you are putting this is handcrafted, hand built, hand adjusted, everything else. So the Bayside Blue R34 GTR. What was the most common question on the show floor when people approached? Was it how soon can I get it, or how much does it cost, or how did you do it? Was it all
Uh,
those?
it was all those, and how much does it make? In terms of
Yeah.
power. Those that's a very popular question that we receive. Yes.
You said that vehicle is a quote spectacular urban street fighter prized for its nimble handling, perfectly balanced power, and lightweight engineering. Is this the perfect car for Built by Legends to be restoring?
Um, it is. It is. Actually, all the second generation GTRs are great cars to restore. They started out as great cars in the first place, when Nissan manufactured them. But, obviously these are, 25 to 30-year-old cars. So even if people took care of them, they do age. They do age. Some of the cars do age a lot. So, we jumped in to make sure that these cars were when it goes to a new owner in now, we were making sure that these cars are performing as they should.
Where are most of your customers coming from?
Honestly, overseas, outside of Japan.
Yeah, the United States, right?
A lot, yes.
Yeah, yeah. At right hand drive, they were never sold in the US as new cars. But an important distinction, they can be imported now without modification because most of them are more than 25 years old. That's the key in the entire equation here, isn't it, Masa?
I think so. I think it is an important, significant key with the why the popularity of the GTR is growing.
And the popularity of just the Japanese resto mods and Japanese vehicles in general. I mean, JDM cars, this we could have an entire show dedicated of 52 weeks of JDM cars, couldn't we?
I think so. I think so. I mean, JDM cars have been very, very popular for years, and we've known that. And I think the cars that we are handling or we are building is just a small portion of that.
Why are these vehicles so special?
Like you said, the GTR especially is a unicorn that people weren't able to acquire as new. So now that these cars have become 25 years old and older, people are finding or are able to get their hands on their dream cars. Most people maybe in their 40s, 50s used to dream of having these cars. So now they can obtain these cars legally in even in the United States.
Yeah, they can get their hands on them now. Yeah, it's a crazy movement. And by the way, when one pulls up next to you and it is a right hand drive, I mean your head snaps looking at what's happening here, right? Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about your history and the history of the company. And I want to go back. We'll get to the VHS tapes and stuff like that. But for you personally,
Yeah.
I mean, I know you and your partner have both lived abroad and have both studied abroad. Were you in the UK or Canada? Well,
I grew up in Canada until high school.
Whereabouts?
Toronto.
Okay. Which has an enormous car culture anyway.
Yes, it does. It does. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can see everything in the streets of Canada, in the streets of Toronto, rather. Yeah. I grew up in Canada as
I
well.
think so. Oh, you did?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Across from Detroit, Michigan. And, that was Windsor's motor. Windsor was Canada's motor city to some extent. And Toronto had
Right.
an enormous following as well.
Right. Hmm.
So, did you always know that you wanted to be involved in the car business to some extent? And were you involved in the car business?
No, I wasn't. I've always liked cars. The cars that we're building now are used to be my dream cars. So that's why we're building them. But no, I didn't think I would be jumping into the industry. And it was just, luck and just timing and everything else. Yes.
So, let's talk a little bit about that. But before there was YouTube, you were involved in packaging up effectively you ate VHS tapes, right? And what were you trying to do there?
Yes. Both my partner Katsu and I were involved with the video magazines, they're called. The titles were Best Motoring and Hot Version. They were originally published by a publishing company called Kodansha in Japan. And they came out in 87 VHS originally. And we were involved in marketing of these titles overseas, outside of Japan. And then, we started initially as helping them out as marketing, but we got into production as well, and we were involved with the production of English title, Best Motoring and Hot Version videos. Then it moved on to DVDs. Then it moved on to online streaming. So yeah,
What
that's
was a
how.
VHS magazine? I mean, I knew a lot about, I followed some of this stuff as a kid, but
Okay.
VHS magazine? What is that?
So basically, Best Motoring featured most of the time production cars, production performance cars, JDMs. So a lot of RX-7s, Supras, a lot of Type Rs, and GTRs, of course. And then the other title, Hot Version, was all about tuning cars as well as motorsports. So what they did was they introduced, like a magazine feature, they introduced the cars when they came out. And then what was interesting, because it was video, was that, you were able to actually see the cars moving and actually see how the cars performed. And what was also interesting about these titles were that they really took out the cars to the track and they really pushed it. And it was amazing because both titles were sell videos, which means that they didn't have advertisement.
Hmm.
So they were pretty much free to say anything about the cars, all the
They were
cast.
unfiltered.
No, yeah, I mean, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
And the cast, that the drivers that they brought in were all professional drivers. Um, uh, you know, not ex-professional drivers, but drivers who were still racing. So they were fairly young when they started. They're old now, but and they really pushed these cars to the limit.
So you're doing this, and you're eventually moving to DVDs and streaming media, and then you and your business partner, you kind of both came up with this. You had a conversation, if I understand it correctly, about your dream cars.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, after Best Motoring and Hot Version, we were still in film production, video production, and we were doing a lot of video production for auto manufacturers, filming, let's say, web commercials, whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just one day we were thinking, what kind of a car would you like to drive now that we were much older? And if we didn't have limits, of course we could name any exotic cars we want, but we were all thinking about the cars that we dreamed of when we were teenagers or younger. And then because we were in video production, best mooring and hot version, we knew that these cars were very popular overseas as well. And then we were thinking that, but some of the cars that made it out overseas were really not in good shape. So that's why we came up with a restoration idea. And yeah, that's how the ball started rolling.
And you realize that no companies were doing resto mods for the cars that both of you really wanted to restore.
Exactly. You know,
You
like the
found a
people,
niche. You found a niche.
the people that we've had on your show, like Singer, there's resto mod companies uh in the world, globally, in North America, in Europe, but not there wasn't really a resto mod company in Japan,
Hmm.
and there wasn't anyone doing the cars that we are doing. Of course, uh, the JDM market is famous for its tuning market. So there's a lot of tuning shops, tuners, tuning companies, aftermarket parts manufacturers.
That's right.
But there aren't no there weren't any companies that really specialized in restoring and modifying JDMs.
A lot of right, as you said, we've heard about, seen all of the tuning companies, but nobody was doing what they do to Porsches and Mercedes and even a Ford Mustang or lately a Bronco or a Land Rover Defender.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, those are classic examples of the resto mod phenomena. The mod, if I say it simply, right, modern powertrains in vintage iron.
Yes, yes, of
Yeah.
course.
So no one was doing that. That's crazy to me.
It is. It was interesting when we realized it. And I think resto mods are different from tuning cars because tune cars are mostly about or only about performance. And resto mods needs to be daily drivers most of the time and reliable, and they need to keep a certain aesthetics of the car, the original car, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's great and also difficult about building cars that we do. Yeah. And
So
if
you
that
decide, yeah. So you decide that you're going to move back to Japan, or you were already living in Japan.
No, we were both living in Japan already.
Okay,
Yeah. I was actually living in the US for a couple of years, doing the best mooring and hot version DVDs. But
okay,
I moved back, and I was already working in Japan.
got it. All right. Well, how hard is it to set up a business that no one has any current footprint in? What was the biggest challenge getting Built by Legends off the ground, which was about 2018, 2019?
2019, that's 2019, we came up with the concept. We really didn't start production until 2020.
Great. In a pandemic, you're going to start this new company.
Exactly, exactly. So the most difficult part about starting a resto mod company is that the word resto mod wasn't known in Japan. So any company that we approached really didn't understand what we were trying to achieve.
Hmm.
And yeah, that was the most difficult part. But at the same time, because we had been in the industry, the automotive industry, for so long, we knew the people. we had great relationships with Mines, who we work with on the GTRs, and Spoon that helps us build the Hondas. So, although they weren't sure what we were trying to do, they were very supportive. So that was good. That was good. But yeah, the
Is
most difficult part was the concept. Getting
is there even a term in Japan for resto mod, or is this just a completely anglicized term?
we use the same word, resto mod.
Resto mod.
Pronounce it a little bit differently. Restomoto.
Resto moto. Okay.
Restomoto.
So you started the resto moto, and all of a sudden you did what some people really don't do, right? Which is form partnerships. And you just mentioned that.
Yeah.
How did you get to that conclusion?
Well, it was actually very natural for us because, when we started, or when we were talking about the concept, we wanted to build the best car that we can. And so, partnering with the best people in the industry and also in the area that they specialize in was important for us. So that's why we work with Mines about they build our engines for the GTR, and they do the final setting for us as well. But the rest of the car, the body and chassis, is built by a company called Garage Yoshida, owned by Yoshida-san. And also, we have the interior people that work just on the interior. And there's a lot more partners that we work with that does specialize in CNC, metalwork, and so on. So we wanted to get the best people that we can to work on the project, one car.
The interior is done by Tanaka Pile Fabrics, if I've said that correctly, right?
Uh, Actually, Tayanaka Pile.
Tayanaka
Yeah. That's a fabric manufacturer.
for the seat covers.
Yeah. This for the seats. We completely reupholster the seats, and we use a market fabric for some of our cars, which is made by Tainaka Pile. And it was interesting because we didn't realize, their background really, but we approached them because we wanted the market fabric. But we found out later on that they were this company was the original manufacturers for fabrics for the Toyota Celsius, the Lexus, first
Yes.
Lexus,
Yeah.
which was supposed to be the most luxurious car that was made in Japan back then. And also the same company made fabrics for the Shinkansen, the bullet train.
Bullet train.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were very impressed with that, with the things that they did in the past. And when we approached them, they weren't sure what we were, we get back to that WrestleMod thing, but still we told them that we wanted to offer the best that we can from Japan for our cars. And
Yeah.
they liked our concepts, so they supported us. Although, the amount of fabric that we asked them to make was it's not a mass production volume, really.
Right. Right. Most
But
importantly,
they only make the fabric. We have another company that upholster the seats.
okay. And most importantly, you referenced them earlier, Singer. You really determined that you didn't want to imitate Singer. And, we've had Rob on the program and Maz on the program. And Singer Vehicle Design, they're known for thoroughly reimagining Porsche 964 911s, bodywork, high performance engines, bespoke interiors, and north of $500,000 and now worth more than $1 million in some resales. But you have said, look, Singer's incredible, but we're not imitating them. Why was that?
Singer is an incredible company. Their cars are amazing.
You've been there too. You were given a
Yes,
tour, right?
yes, yes, we were. They're very supportive of us, I think, and they gave us a tour of their newest factory. But we just didn't want to do the same things that other people were doing, for one. And then, like I said, we wanted to work with the best people in each area of the car, and that meant that we didn't have to have. It wasn't unnecessarily a must for us to have all the production under one roof. Um, Although that fact alone does make it hard for us to produce one car because there's a lot of logistics nightmares during production. But
Yeah.
still, yeah. I mean, we didn't feel that we had to have everything done under one roof.
Yeah. Let's go
And we
through.
also and we also wanted to uh going back to the tuning market, I think a lot of the companies in Japan tuning companies in Japan were fairly famous, fairly well known. But we wanted to kind of focus on companies that support that world, that scene. So, a fabric company or a reupholstering company, body chassis specialist. These were companies that weren't really known. So we wanted to focus on that and introduce them to the world, so to speak. And we weren't going to hide the people that we work with. We weren't trying we
Right.
weren't trying to, keep it a secret. That was our intention from the beginning.
So 5 years. This is your fifth. 2024 is your fifth anniversary. Amazingly, five either quick or very long years for you. Um, does the world in Japan know Resto Moto now?
I think it's starting to. It's starting to appear. The word is starting to appear in a lot of magazines here, a lot of media here. Still, there aren't too many companies that really are specializing in this area, but I think it is getting popular a lot. Or let's say the tuning cars or tuner cars are getting to be more refined, let's say.
Hmm.
Tuning cars used to be about power handling, but now people are more more giving attention to more detail, I think. And that's happening now.
Well, it's not so extreme, right? I mean, you have said, I think you said this at SEMA, you want to keep the cars reasonable to drive. In this case, the R34 GTR, 650 horsepower, is that right?
Yes.
650 horsepower. You said that's more than enough to feel the
Mhm.
performance. And you referenced this earlier, but that they need to serve as daily drivers and be durable. So, you can do things that, you know, there were plastic interiors in the 1990s and 2000s. Okay, well, that can be upgraded. But you actually don't have to go to some extreme limit in order to change a 0 to 60 time now, do you?
No,
You can
not
find
really.
somewhere right in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important that these cars are drivable. I mean, a lot of the GTRs can be tuned up to, over 1,000 horsepowers, whatnot, but durability is always an issue. And I don't think if you're really going to make that much power, you're going to have to rework the entire chassis itself. Although we do that as well, we reinforce the chassis, but still, the car is going to be change its characteristic, which we really didn't want to do.
Yeah, for sure. When we look at what you can do to the vehicle, describe maybe what if somebody didn't go to SEMA and see the vehicle there, what are the characteristics of the vehicle? I know that mine's uses an MB7 engine. It's got a 6-speed, right, manual transmission. What else is
Yeah.
unique about it? There's a lot of carbon fiber as well.
Yes, a lot of the body parts are carbon fiber. But what's unique about our cars is that the MB7 engine is a unique engine that's built for us by mines. The uniqueness of our cars compared to, let's say, a stock R34 GTR is that we focus more on response, which is also a concept with mines. Uh, Response rather than power. So, 650 is a lot of power, I think. But still, we more or less concentrate on balance, response. So it's about acceleration more than top speed. So you're going to feel that when you get into the driver's seat and drive the car, because it's the engine is really responsive. We also changed the suspension, although we don't really change the geometry of the suspension. The cars are very nimble for the weight of the car.
Brakes are from AP Racing, 6 pot
Yeah.
in the front, 4 in the rear, right?
Yes.
Brembos as well.
Yes. On the cars that we built and taken to SEMA, yes, the brakes were APs.
Okay. And carbon air intake duct, fuel delivery pipe. I mean, we're getting very technical, but there's some really high technology aspects to these vehicles. There's an ECU system. I mean, these are all things that if you own the vehicle and you did this on your own in your backyard on a, and it took 2 years to do it, you might come up with some similar things, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of the things that we do to our car um, are actually, some of them are fairly common, but still it's difficult to do as an individual. Also, let's say, you know, exterior parts. We make some original exterior parts and but with dry carbon. So trying to get something done with working with materials like dry carbon, it's really difficult as an individual to do. Also, on the engine side, there are parts that are readily available if one wanted to acquire one. Let's say um, the airflow meter. We actually use one from an R35 GTR, which is a more current modern car.
And updated bodies, carbon fiber components, front bumper, hood, mirrors, doors, trunk, right? Carbon trunk lid and side skirts. You're also considering too, right?
Yes, side skirts we are developing.
Okay. Yeah. And really you're constantly test fitting these things to make them better. Um, are you getting advice from people? Did people stop by the SEMA stand and say, "Hey, here's what I think you should put on this vehicle"?
Yes, a lot of people do that. Yeah,
Do
they
they?
ask like, why.
What'd they say?
Because well, let's say, yeah, the side skirts is a good example. I mean, the cars that we displayed at SEMA didn't have any aftermarket or different side skirts. So they were asking us why we haven't put one on, and they were all, a lot of people were saying that the car had an original bumper, had a front diffuser, the rear had a rear diffuser, but something was missing in the middle. So when they look at the car from the side, so yeah, people were suggesting us to
you were
produce
you were
sides.
taking notes at the show. You've done 4 GTRs to this point, is that right?
5 actually, yes.
You've done 5, and
Yes.
you're working on 5 more of them right now. Is that correct? 5 at this time?
Yeah, five sounds correct. Yes.
Wow. What a journey. What a journey. I mean, 5 years, Masa, 10 cars.
Yes, yes.
You're actually ahead of pace,
I
right?
don't know. I'm no, well, you know what? Getting back to that COVID, era.
Yeah.
That was we planned on finishing a car in our first car in 2 years, but it took us three to finish, I think. And partly because of COVID, and maybe it did take us, maybe taking a long time was negative in some way, but positive in some ways, because we had time to think, we had time to plan things because of COVID. So yeah, I kind of think we were able to kind of use that to our advantage.
But that must have been a nightmare. I mean, you've just started this company. How are you going to get parts with the country basically shut down and other countries also semi shut down?
Yeah, some of it was difficult, but the companies that we work with weren't, let's say, large corporates that were restricting
That's
people
true.
to go in and out of the office or in and out of the factories. So we were working with, very uh, fairly small companies. So people were flexible. We were able to communicate, visit, have discussions, R&D, probably much better than a lot of, corporate people were doing at the time.
And you got up to speed, like you said.
Yeah.
You had a long runway to figure out this business and get up to speed. So if you think about it, Masa,
Mm-hmm.
if you take out the COVID years, you've really only been at this for at a consistent level, a non-interrupted level for a couple of years, and you've already done 10 cars.
Or
Or you're
working on it.
or you're working on it. I'm going to give
Yeah.
you credit for the other five being done already, right? Yeah. I hear a rumor that you're also working on Civic Type Rs. Is that true?
Yes. Yes, we are. People who have been following us know that before that we're still working on an EG6 Civic. But that is still going on. But simultaneously, we've started to work on a EK9 Civic Type R.
That's exciting.
It is.
Going
It
into a
is.
whole new realm. Yeah. Is that creating interesting new challenges for you, or is it kind of a similar approach that you can take to it?
Um, both. I mean, building, restoring, or resto modding a car is really the same with every car. I think we're constantly having issues with finding new parts, and ultimately, if we can't find one, we'll produce them. But that's the same issue that we stumble upon with the GTR or the Civic. But yeah,
It,
it's interesting. Yes.
and I understand that there may even be really big dreams down the road of someday maybe building an Acura NSX.
Yes. There's a few customers that are asking us or if we can work on the NSX, and some of the customers already have a vehicle in hand, and they're saying, "Hey, when can we take? When can I take this car to your garage?"
I bet. I bet. Yeah. A strong market for that.
Yeah, I think so. But I mean, already when we think about finding parts for these cars, because all the cars that are interesting to us and people have interested in are getting to be rare cars to find, or yeah, and most of the cars are getting old,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it'll always be difficult to finish them in the way that we would be satisfied and the
Right.
customer would be satisfied.
The final few minutes here. Is it just the two of you in the company, or are there more people?
Full time, yes. Full time, only the two of us. But I
Jeez.
mean,
Wow.
uh, we do have the designer Yoshi, who designs a lot of the parts, a lot of the interior work that we do, and Yoshi works with us almost full time.
Wow. Do you
But
need to
that's
have more people? I mean, do you envision that 5 years from now, when we have this conversation, you're going to say, "I got more work than I know what to do with, and I need about five more people"?
I think so. I think
Yeah.
I think it would help, but at the same time, we work with our partners, and it's important for us to have a close relationship with each one of them. And luckily, Katsu and Yoshi and myself were able to maintain that working relationship with the few partners that we have, a close relationship. So that's always good being a small company.
Right. Yeah. Very nimble. You can do whatever you want. Yeah. Yeah. Are there more ways that you need to get the word out about what you're doing besides places like SEMA and Las Vegas? How do people, is this all just organic? Are they finding out about it because of internet postings?
I think so. The first few years it's really been just organic.
Mm.
And that kind of paid off because we were able to uh be reached out by some of the major publishing medias from overseas.
Hmm.
SEMA is always good, but yeah, we're looking to um, expand or try to increase our exposure in other parts of the world as well. Yeah, in the future. But I think it's important that we have a car that people can see, and because initially when we were just talking about concept and showing pictures, it was very difficult for people to imagine what we were trying to achieve. But once we had our first car, I think it's been much easier. And I think that's important that we are able to show an actual car.
How do you, as a final question, how do you sum up for those who don't know? This show is cars and culture, and there's a heavy emphasis underlining the word culture as much as
Mhm.
cars. How do you explain what you do and JDM and the culture behind that to people who maybe don't know?
Well, I think JDM, the culture itself has been here for a long time. But it's still, a lot of people who haven't been familiar with the culture. I think what we are doing is to spread that culture, the JDM culture, in in a way that we want people to understand. I think a lot of the JDM culture, or a lot of, was perceived as maybe illegal racing, whatnot. But that's not the culture that we want to spread. So I think Built by Legends is helping
Yeah.
to achieve that.
How about the
Hope.
fact that in 2023 that JDM, rare JDM metal was shining at Pebble Beach as
Hmm.
as an example, and in 2024 too, it's now JDM is now recognized at one of the most illustrious concours car shows in the world as a thing of beauty.
Yes, I think it's great, but I think the representation is still very small
Yeah.
at that venue. So I think we'd like to try and increase that, not only in North America, in Europe as well. So yeah, we'd like to spread the word the way we
Amazing.
can.
You've done it today. You've not only spread the word, Masa, you've invented a word. Restomoto. Congratulations.
Got that right. All right.
Congratulations on all of that. Thank you for being a part of our program and for explaining, defining, and illustrating what it means to have the JDM culture alive and well. Thank you, Masa.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.